Uh, welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. This over a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Long time no see.
Oh, I'm meeting with you.
Once you become colleagues with somebody, it's like a work wife. And then Frances just tries to find all the ways to get rid of me. All the ways that she can downsize her time with Lily.
I wouldn't say that now, would I?
I love how we both get ready on this live. Like, hey, everyone. Oh, there she is. Issa Rae of New York. Issa Rae of New York.
Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Perfect.
You like my singing?
No.
She does.
She join Issa?
Issa, let's join us. Request to join.
Okay, there we are.
Oh, nice. I got you.
Hi, everyone.
Quiet for a little bit and everybody want to come now.
Hey!
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. I like your little red hat.
Thank
oh my
you.
God, look at
Thank
you.
you.
You're in red.
Hi, Asiah.
Hi.
This is my colleague and friend Frances. She's in Peru right now, hanging out at a coffee shop.
Let me get some headphones, Lord.
Yeah, she's always at these coffee shops, and it's like really loud, and you're talking to her, and you're in a very serious like moment, and there's somebody like banging in the background. I'm like, girl, you got to find different co-working spaces.
I heard some kids in the background. I was like, oh, who has kids? That's
Nope, I don't have kids.
Yeah, I mean, it was quiet. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it was quiet, and then 5 people come in. Anyway.
Oh, did she freeze up a little bit?
Yeah, I think she's back.
Caught her in action, and come back. Hey, Missy.
Hi, Missy.
Hey, Missy.
All right, Aisha's the main attraction here. We gotta.
Come on, Aisha, come back. You can do it. Wi-Fi gods, be with us today. Hey, sister, soul sister, gotta roll, sister. Let's see, come back.
Up here.
So
okay.
Froggy.
Okay.
Ah, there you are.
I'm laughing at you. Come back.
I was like, come back. Is your Wi-Fi okay?
My Wi-Fi looks okay, but it feels laggy. But do I sound laggy?
No.
Okay, it's good. We're good to go.
You sound good. Okay, well, good. Thank you so much for joining us. I told Frances that you pulled me on to a live where I had to make a fool of myself. I had to do all kinds of characters. My favorite character to play was the Valley Girl who signed up for volunteering but really didn't want to volunteer.
That was really fun.
That was fun. That was fun because she was so good at being straight and mean with me. She was trying to set boundaries with this Valley girl who shouldn't be volunteering because really I wanted to just check it off a list, I just wanted to say I volunteered. And I was like, it was such a good
Yeah, you had a lot of demands.
Oh.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, was she playing a character? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, I got everybody in our shaman school talking like a Valley girl every once in a while.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, just as kind of like comic relief. I just think it's funny for us being in the middle of the mountains doing this like really integrative deep medicine, and then all of a sudden I bust out with the Valley Girl. So I like the contradiction.
I love it. I love it.
Well, so I'm really appreciative of you coming, because I just thought we could use this time to just kind of have like a soul session. You brought up a lot of like important points when it comes to kind of people's super common fears when it comes to doing not only like a retreat that's out of the country that nobody knows anything about, but just even the plant medicines itself and how that can feel. And so I kind of want to just know a little bit more about you and any of your experience with plant medicine so far, and kind of like where you're at with that. And you can just tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, of course. So first, how do we define plant medicine? Is that tea? Is that psilocybin? I'm pronouncing the word wrong. Is that marijuana? Like, so
Ooh.
what is?
Ooh. However you define it, actually.
I don't know
That's
if
a
you
good
want to
point.
put that back on me. I don't know if you want to put that back on me. So I guess when I think of plant medicine, I think of it as like a tool that like opens you up a little bit more. So I feel like my first encounter with it was some shrooms I did a couple of years ago. At the time, I felt like I lived very with rose-colored glasses, even though I live in inner city, I live in Brooklyn or whatever, right? So that kind of like opened up my eyes, and it reminded me of when I was a kid and I used to, what I now know as meditate, when I used to meditate and see like this bright golden like scene in my mind when I would meditate, it brought me back to that and how peaceful that was. And because I was so young and I didn't understand the concept of meditation, I didn't have anyone to talk to about these things. So I was afraid and I just kind of stopped, right? So that first time I was out the country, I was away, and I just remembered being in that place, right? So that was the first time. So a couple of years later, I took it again, and that really like bust the doors open for me. I feel like in that experience, it reminded me that we're all connected and different events in your life, like at certain junctions in your life, you start to see how they all happen for a reason and how connected they are. Um, that time that I took it though, it was hard because it was like I wanted to do it, but I knew it would take me to a different place. So I like faced it with like kind of trepidation, but I still did it. And I feel like there was like some internal struggle anyway when it comes to my career, right? That was going on. So that really showed up in freaking Bali, like for me on this, like, I guess, journey. And I would say that was like the last time I delved into it.
Mm. Oh my God. Like you make my heart feels like so, I don't know, like my heart is like beating, because just like as you're talking about all those experiences, I always thought of like psilocybin as like pre-psilocybin. Like if I'm a visual learner, right? So like if I look at like
Bless
how I
you.
lived before was like in this like box, right? So this is where I was living. And these are the things that I was doing, and this is what I did every day when I woke up, and I went to work and I did this. But then after the first time I took psilocybin, I feel like it busted all of that. It was like,
Hmm.
wait, there's another dimension of this. Almost even just from like the colors and the sounds you see, realize what is available to you, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah,
so much more available. And I was
yeah.
like, wait, sit with that concept. And similar to you, I had some fears during a psilocybin session about, and I should ask Frances about this since she's the therapist in the group. Um, my main fear during one of my psilocybin sessions was I don't want to go away, right? We keep feeling like we're going to be taken away somewhere else.
That's how I felt the second time.
Mm. Mm. And I felt that, I think that was my second time with it too. And I took a lot. And I also wasn't in the proper setting, I think, for myself either. So that was another probably reason. But I kept saying, I don't want to go away. And she asked me, well, to where? And I didn't really have an answer, right? And that's how you can tell it was just fear trying to make up something from keeping me from the possibility of something else, right? And I am really not going to go anywhere. But I don't know, Francis, have you had something like that kind of happen in your
Yeah, so, my first two experiences, my sister and I did it, and I think we did a little too much. However, it was exactly what I needed. And the first experience was very different than the second experience. The first experience was more cellular things that needed to be released. Just spent a lot of the time laughing, but also feeling very connected. The same thing that you felt, Aisha. And then the second time, I felt so much love because the mushrooms is the heart, the medicine of the heart. That's why you feel that opening that comes from your heart space, and you start realizing how connected you are to everyone and everything. And I remember being in my second trip and like, oh my God, I found the answer. I felt like a scientist. I just discovered the purpose of the world, and it was to just love. And you know that conceptually, but to experience something like this viscerally through your cellular memory, through your body, using the plants is a whole nother concept. Because when you understand something from a cellular place, you can act upon it.
Yep.
We know a lot of things intellectually, but when it comes down to behavior and action, it doesn't necessarily compute. So I think that's what the plants really give us. They give us the feeling to speak without the words and to connect without the words.
Damn.
Yeah,
and as she's saying that, I realized, Aisha, when you were describing your experience, her and I could probably viscerally feel what you're saying, right? Like the English language really doesn't have enough words to describe any journey, right? The English language is kind of whack. So when we're saying these things like amazing, magical, connected, really the people that can kind of understand that on a visual, like she said, cellular level, are the people that had the experience with the medicine, because it's another dimension, it's another level, right? And that's how you kind of know that your world, your portal has been opened in a different way. And I just feel like you can't access that in talk therapy, right? You can't access some of these things with the other tools that we have available to us. Sure, you can, like on the surface level, help understand some things, but this is where you understand, right? Your whole body understands something, right? And you don't even try to make sense of it, because there's something about leaving certain things mystical. There's something about leaving some magic to the plant, right? Not having to put all these words around it. And it's just that experience on a cellular level, you'll forever be changed. So yeah.
As you were saying that like you were able to viscerally feel like my experience as I was sharing it. 2 times this year, I've actually seen on TV play out like folks who were high, I guess, or had taken, even though it was fictional, right? I could tell that whoever wrote that scene kind of told those actors to kind of do it that way, because I remember one time I took it at a concert, right? And I remember parts where I would feel like this connectedness with the folks around me who were on it, and then it would go away, and then we would get connected again. And every time we got connected again, I felt like we were on the same page, talking about the same thing. It was just like, I don't know. It was interesting that it happens that way.
What do you feel like, I'm curious, after those psilocybin sessions, do you feel like you were able to weave any lesson or message that you got from psilocybin into your daily life?
I wouldn't say weave a message just yet. I feel like if anything, it just confirms or affirms like different feelings I've had, like journeying life these past couple of years. And it's just like, like, you know, like how Francis had said, oh, I solved something. I feel like through each session, I solved something that happened as I'm going through life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Wow.
So I have a question. I noticed you have a little Haitian flag there. You know what I'm saying? So I thought I'd come up with some because I'm Haitian as well,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm curious to know what it was like for you growing up as Haitian. Like they used to give me the baths, you know, the herbal baths and everything else. Did you grow up with any of the herbs, like knowing that it was there was like a
So,
connection of some sort?
interestingly enough, on my Haitian side, I did not grow up with the herbs, and I feel part of it is because um, my grandma, she's Catholic, and I feel like even though she's Catholic, I feel like even when you are in those countries that practice Christianity, they still weave in like traditional practices and stuff like that. But I never saw that from her. And when a couple years ago, I asked my dad, I was like, "Why is that?" And he said that there was, I guess, when it came from her, there was a fear around that, even though she did have other family members who I guess still practice some of the traditional practices. I feel like more so for my mom, who's not Haitian, I have like a inner knowing, I guess, a little bit of some plants and medicinals that she would use on me as I was growing up because I suffered from different ailments like eczema, asthma, mostly eczema, asthma, allergy, and she would try all of these different remedies that were like outside of whatever medicine I got from the pediatrician or whatever to help kind of like make me feel better.
Yeah, I was just curious because, you know, sometimes if we grew up with something, there might be a bit more inclination. If we
Mm-hmm.
didn't, there might be a bit more hesitation. And and I'm wondering, since, you know, you tried the two psilocybin journeys already, what is what is your next step when it comes to like the plants? What are your intentions? What do
Oh.
you, or you know, like what do you, I don't know what's calling you, I guess. What
Yeah,
something
look
keeps
at her
calling you because you're having
smile
a
though.
conversation here.
Yeah,
Because you're having a
look at her
conversation here with us.
smile.
So
We're putting you on the spotlight. What's your intention?
um
Yeah, what's your
so after my last session, which was actually before the pandemic, I felt like there was like some inner message saying like, oh, like you have answers with you. Maybe you don't need to. I don't know where that was coming from, right? So I'm still trying to digest that and understand that. And I feel like part of the reason maybe why that was coming up was because maybe with the folks who were there, I didn't have that like support to like further dive deep in to it or whatever. So that's one side of it. And then I see both you and Lily, sharing information about your retreat, and I'm intrigued, but because of what happened that last time where like a message came up where I'm not sure where it's coming from, like is it ego, is it like that's what has me at like a standstill of like where do you go next, what do you do next to continue like this journey of like inner standing as
Yeah, I'm curious to know because my intuition is saying that like when I hear that I see that you get messages that are so crystal clear, right? There's just certain people in this like lifetime where I'm like that person is so tapped in. But then what can happen is that the thinking thoughts are
Mm-hmm.
even louder later. And
Yeah.
then those will carry on for weeks, so much so that you forgot that that little whisper was like the true voice or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to know when you do get super, super quiet and in that meditative state you've talked about before, what is the message for you about them?
Well, I don't know yet. It hasn't come up yet, but it's so
Mm.
interesting that you just said like the different voices and distinguishing between them, because I feel like now, like in the last like 4 or 5 months, all of the reading material that I've been gravitated towards is about distinguishing between
Mm.
those voices, right? And understanding which one is yours.
Hmm. Yeah, our mentor always talks about the word of like, discernment, right? Has come up a lot,
Mm-hmm.
Francis. What's the other word that she uses a lot that we love? Discernment and
Um,
devotion as well.
Devotion and
Devotion,
intentionality.
intentionality.
So, yeah. So I'm wondering because, we're really good as humans to talk ourselves out of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we're really good at wanting to know something
No.
because by knowing something, it makes us, quote unquote, it gives us a false sense of security, like a false illusion of security. Because sometimes we're like, well, I need to wait to see the message. I need to feel the message. I need to come in and I need to feel it, and sometimes the message has already been said. The message is waiting
Mm-hmm.
for you, right? The message is waiting for
Mm.
you to catch up.
Be on
And it's
board.
like, it's almost like, oh, I see the sign. The sign's this. The sign's coming up. Oh, yeah. Well, it's almost time to take action, right? So it's
Yeah.
sometimes when people are afraid of something, the fear doesn't necessarily go away, but it does go away with action. And
Mm.
when we wait, it just brings up more and more anxiety. And so that's what I find, even for my own personal journeys. Like when I'm indecisive with things in the direction of my life, and I'm just overthinking things, any decision will get me there. Any decision will
Mm-hmm.
get me there. It might be the long way, it might be the short way, it might be an accelerated way, but any decision will get me there. But the lack of decision will
Yeah.
not get me there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true. Like it reminds me of one of our former mentors, Christina Hassler, who kept, when I was in those places, she kept saying, you can't make a wrong choice. And guess what? You can always change it still. And you're like, oh,
Mm.
yes, that's so true. Not only can I make a choice, but from that choice, I can pivot because nobody's my mom,
Wow.
nobody's my dad anymore. No, like I'm my own person, and I thought, oh God, that was so freeing. Just knowing that was just so freeing because I can spin as well. So
You
yeah.
guys are like talking about stuff that I've written in my journal like every day. There's like someone brought me the 5 minute gratitude journal, and some of the things that I write that I'm grateful for is that I have the ability to make a choice, and
Mm.
if I don't like that choice, I could always do something else.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't realize they have that ability to do that, right? So,
Yeah.
wow, wow.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, do you have any experience with ayahuasca or Cambo or anything like that?
I have no experience with that. Honestly, I only know of those terms because, like, when I see, actually both of you, because you guys are always like posting kind of together. I see
Yeah.
like, I see you
Why
all.
you gotta give away our secrets, Aisha? Come
Yeah.
on now. This is planned marketing.
She's like,
Well, it's
I
good.
see
It's
you.
good.
I see you.
It's good.
That's so
Um,
funny.
so I'm only like kind of familiar with it because you guys share it on your platforms. I've heard of ayahuasca before. I actually heard about it like before I was introduced to, I don't know how to pronounce the word with a P. Um,
Psilocybin?
Thank you.
Yeah.
um, but I think at the time I was in college and people would share like videos who would have like
Oh.
bad trips of it. And then after that, I was like, oh, I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna do that. But that was like the last and first time that
Mm.
yeah.
That's exactly why Francis and I decided to do some of our funny videos that you see and also have these like open conversations about bad trips with our mentor because if you go down any rabbit hole, right? It's just like, when you're trying to fix an ailment through WebMD, like it's gonna be bad, right? It's
Hmm.
gonna be real bad. And it's the same thing the internet is that you're getting someone else's projection onto that plant, right? The person who wasn't in the right mindset, possibly not in the right setting. We don't know anything about their history. We don't know anything about how they got there, who's administering, right? And then we see these stories and then we amplify them and we're like, nope, see, I told you, I ain't going there, right?
So
And
may I ask a question?
yeah, please.
Have you ever been working with a client and they've shared with you that they want to, I guess, work with those plants, and then after working with them for a bit, you realize they're not ready? Do you stop them? How does those conversations go? That's never happened? What?
Yo, Francis,
That's a
it's a really good question.
that's a really good question,
Yeah.
because here's the thing. Each plant medicine journey is so individual.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will have a plant medicine experience and feel like that's all they needed. Some people will have a plant medicine journey and feel like I need one more. You know, so we can't even quantify or measure or give you an absolute kind of answer, because you have to understand the plant medicine journey is between you and yourself.
Yeah.
So you need to decide what is best for you when it resonates. One thing I never do here is, I wish I didn't do that. The only time you hear somebody say that is because they weren't ready to really deal with their shit, honestly. Because that's what the plant medicines do. They bring up things and they shine a mirror in front and they give you the space to change your relationship with the things that you've been struggling with. And if it comes up so fast and if you don't have the support to integrate, whether it's before the plants or after, and even during, it is going to be quite jarring for somebody, right? Especially we're in a society that likes to suppress things, sweep things under the rug, right? And these plants aren't about that. So when you have the right setting with the right people with the right intention, I've never heard anybody say, I wish I didn't learn that.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't learn that about myself.
Yeah, and
I don't know about you.
It's so true. You reminded me of something else, Francis. It's sometimes when also people say they have a bad trip, what you come to find out is that they just didn't have any support after, right? It's like, this is a weird comparison, but you know, like when you were younger and you had a nightmare and maybe a parent came to your side and you're like, but all these monsters, but all these and this is what I saw, and this person's going to come to get me. And you're like, no, you're safe. I promise. You're safe. This home is safe. Your bed is safe. I am right here. I'm next door. Right? And so that's something, a missing piece that sometimes Francis and I see in this journey, is that there's nobody there to integrate with you before, middle, and after. Right? Because all kinds of things are going to come up before, middle, and after. All kinds of different things. And just like she said, it's so individual that you may be dealing with some more emotional stuff before and not so much after, or vice versa. And so that's going to change for everybody. So it's important to have somebody who's been through it before to say, nah, I got you. Yeah, scary monsters.
Yeah, so
what else? Tell me what else you got. You have dragons, fire, what else? You know? And
so it's not necessarily...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. I'm done.
I was just going to say, it's not the plants. It's the integration. It's just the integration. Because you can integrate for a few months, few weeks, few years, you know, because you're still getting the lessons from what you experienced, because you just unearthed and uncovered a lot of, you're like rediscovering yourself, you know? And as long as you have the supports in place, you're going to be completely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful message, talking about the integration. You don't realize like how important that is. Like you were saying, Francis, you could learn so much stuff, uncover so much stuff. Is like, okay, now how do you unpack it? How do you, like, I forget who asked the question, like, how do you weave that lesson, right, into how you move forward?
Yeah, remember my first ayahuasca ceremony? I was with like 15 other people. Like, I don't know if it was 20 people in that room. I knew what was going on. And even afterwards, I was like, huh? What? Okay, you know? Had I had my mentor, my first ceremony, had I had her, I would be able to, she would have been able to explain that I was resisting so much in that ceremony that my experience, there was really no connection, and I didn't really understand what was like going on with me. You know what I mean? So it's so crucial, the setting, and having somebody like spit back to you, oh, this is why that happened. And even if there is no why, sometimes it's just like just to be with it, right? Just to be with it, you know?
So in hindsight, even though you said that you were resisting, what drew you to it and allowed you to still go in that journey?
Ooh, she's asking
Oh,
you the hard questions
oh,
now.
wait a second.
Look at,
Did we
wait a
switch
second.
roles over here?
Wait a second.
Did we
So,
switch roles over here? I love that question, Aisha. I really do.
Wait, guys,
What?
sorry, so bad, so sorry. It's Asiah.
Aisha.
Aisha,
Yeah,
I'm so
thank you.
sorry.
No, that's fine.
See,
Okay.
Lily? Okay.
She blames me for everything. Anyway.
Honestly, Aisha, I was so committed. You know, when you get fed up with yourself, when you get tired of being depressed, you get tired of being anxious. No, seriously. And even as a therapist, I realized talk therapy could only go so far. I was like, I wasn't seeing my clients getting better. I wasn't getting better. I felt like I could talk myself through a lot of things intellectually. But why did I still feel so bad? Like, why were these feelings, why was I still caught up in this wave? So my commitment to my own healing was what kept me going through this process. And it just kept calling me. I don't know if it's just like an inner knowing, like you just said, an understanding that I'm going to trust the process of these plants that have been used for tens and thousands of years in such an indigenous ceremonial way that have healed people in the past. I'm going to trust that there's got to be something there. Because when you are at your wit's end about just life in general, and you're like, this is it for me. This is
You'll
it for
do
me because
anything.
nothing else,
Yep.
I'll do anything. I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm not going to die because the plants, they're completely natural. So what is the worst that's going to happen if I go through this process? I might not like what I see about myself. I might have to deal with some of that stuff.
You
But
might
at the
poop
end
your
of the day,
pants.
I might poop in my pants. At the end of the day, me committing to that process and committed to my own healing, it really took me to the other side, right? And so had I not done that, I'd still be on the roller coaster of like depression and anxiety, honestly. And because I think a lot of people think like I have to deal with depression and anxiety for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I don't
believe
subscribe
that
to that.
either. Yeah.
I don't believe that. So when I realized that that was different for me, I was like, oh, I want everybody to experience this as much as possible.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's what kept me going.
Yeah, and I grew up in the therapy world in a different way because I grew up with both my parents are therapists. And they grew up in traditional therapy, traditional talk therapy. And even for me as a child of somebody who was, you know, clinically trained, even for me, I was still depressed and anxious and all the things, right, too. So it was like there was a rebellious side where I was like, I'm going to find my own way. But then there was the commitment that kept coming back as well. Because it was like, I knew there was a window there. There was a window to something else. I keep thinking I'm visualizing like a portal to something else, right? And the more you see the formulaic kind of way of living outside, you just like the fed upness. I was fed up with that. I was fed up with the formula, the robotic way that you go into work, right? The way people talk when you go into work. And I remember saying to somebody, is everybody like this? Like when you go into work, they have like a voice, like a work voice that they talk in, and then they type on the computer all day, and then they go home and they call it a day, and we just keep doing it over again. And I think that's what got to me. That is what got to me because I was like, first of all, that's so not Lily. If you hang out with me for 5 minutes, you'll know there's no way I can live with that. But I knew there was something more, and I was committed in the way that Francis was. So even though I scared the shit out of myself in a shroom session, it's that inner knowing, right? That you know, okay, again, no more blaming other things. No more blaming the plants. No more blaming other things. There's still more, right? There's still more. So,
Wow.
so yeah.
As I'm listening to both of you share your stories, I'm just thinking back to my last experience where I had on a shirt that had my employer's name on it, and I felt like I don't even know why I bought this shirt on vacation. Anyway, so I wore it, and then I felt like I needed to rip it off, but the other shirt that I wanted to put on had like a heart with a rainbow on it, and I was scared once I ripped it off, the other shirt with my employer's name on it, that the rainbow would just like burst out and just be too much to handle.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's one thing that happened. And the next thing that happened was I don't know how to swim. And the pool was over there. And I just remember being so drawn to want to go in the water. But I was kind of afraid of myself to get in the water because I knew I didn't know how to swim and I didn't know what would have happened, what would happen, especially with folks who were also in their own world. And I don't know, I was afraid of my life because I didn't want to go in there and then no one not be able to help me or whatever. So it's just interesting because I kind of kept those two memories like down. And as I'm hearing both of you chat, like they're rising up to the top.
Oh, the rainbow one. The
Yeah.
rainbow one. Like, I love that you're like, I didn't want that to be too much.
Yeah.
You're just like, I don't want it to be too much. And I'm like, oh, what's too much? Shine your rainbow. Shine the rainbow. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking of the old school Care Bears. You know?
Yes, I love the Care Bears. I want to show you my Care Bear. But yeah. Exactly
That was my favorite show growing up. Stop
I used to
it.
wish I could do what the Care Bears do actually with their tummies.
That is so funny. That's how I'm going to see you now, from now on. Care Bear stare, like, I don't know. That image is in there now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and also to take it back to something you were saying earlier, like, you know, are two things that came to mind. Our mentor also saw this, right? She's from the old world, like the old world and the new world. Like, she's the perfect mix of clinically trained, but she is rooted in shamanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that she has seen is that people will just like go to the jungle and take ayahuasca and come back and be like, what the fuck? But you realize, like, what happens is, like, shamans in the jungle who haven't been part of the modern world for a while don't understand the makeup of the brain of the modern world. There's a lot of complexity to that. There's a lot of different problems that they don't even understand that could possibly exist, right? And so the integration process, that's why it's also so important, is to understand where people are coming from when they're landing in these jungle towns. It's like, where is their base? Where are they coming from? And how do we help that? How do we help that integrate into the daily life when you go back to Brooklyn, right? That's the difference. And also there's just a methodology to how the retreat was even made, so that you're prepped by the time on the last day, second to last day, you do ayahuasca, that you're prepped, right? There's integration time in between. There's yoga, there's psilocybin, there's kambo to cleanse. There's so many things to support so that you feel safe, that safety that you need to go in to those other worlds, to go into the shadows, right? And you feel like you're in it with everybody. Even her and I are in our own stuff, right? And then we have to integrate with you. And so that's the beauty of it, because I thought one of the reasons why she and I made this, our intention was like, what kind of world would I want to create outside there, and create a mini version of that in the retreat, right? And that was like the base of like why we started what we started, was just kind of a mini model of how we would wish the rest of the communities around the world would be, because you feel so raw and open and authentic. And this is not how I felt on the day-to-day when I went into work every day, right? So it was like, how do I create that? And so those are two things that I wanted to mention before I forgot. Do you have any more questions,
So
Francis?
yeah, well, I'm curious. You know, we said a lot. You know what I mean?
We said a
And a
lot.
lot of it has been a lot of it has been based on our own perspective and experience. I'm curious to know what else is coming up for you when it comes to the plants. Are you feeling a bit more sense of ease, curiosity? Is that fear still there? Because I will say before you say anything, like me and Lily, even before we sit in any ceremony, we still get a little nervous. We still like, damn, I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
We still get a little
Yep.
nervous, right?
Yep.
But we know how it is on the other side, so we still move through it. So I'm curious to see what else is coming up for you.
So I feel like the needle moved to curious now, right? So there was a lot of fear before, and it's like slowly dying down, and then it's lots of curiosity. Um, but I guess what I'm about to say now maybe is like linked back to fear, where I am fearful, I guess, about the integration back into Brooklyn, as Lily said, right? And then back to this day to day, and how does that look for me, and just things like that. And I feel like as I'm saying this, I'm like based off of what I've been like other things I've been integrating is like, well, why are you thinking that far ahead, right? Why are you concerned about there, right? Just like be in the moment.
Yeah.
And because you know, I'm saying that to myself, like, you know what happens when you're in the moment, right? You're better able to embrace, you know, certain processes instead of like coming in with something you had mentioned, Francis, like earlier, that other mind that starts to like, you know, sabotage everything, because I feel like that's what it does inherently.
Yeah. What comes up for me when you talk about that is that I actually think the same way too. I have this monkey mind that just constantly wants to go to the future. And then I remind myself that nature doesn't move like that.
Mm.
That's just conditioning, Lily. I'm like, Lily, that's just conditioning. Nature doesn't move like that. And you will know. You will know when to quit the job. You will know when it's time to move on from something. You will know when you have to say something hard in a relationship. You will know. You'll trust yourself. And I noticed that's what came up for people when we were at the different retreats with our mentor. Everybody did it in their own stages. Some people were already creating like their next biggest thing right after the retreat ended. Other people were slowly handling certain things in their life that they needed to, like, you know, uncover or get rid of, or you name it. And it was, everybody was at like a different pace, but it all came from just, they knew what to do. They just knew. And you always have a reference from now on. That's what I feel like gave them peace of mind. They always had that reference of the feeling and like the visceral feeling. We were talking the cellular change that will forever be with them. 20, 30 years down from the road, that experience that they had with the plants will never leave. So you'll always have that guide with you in a way. That's, I guess, how I think of it. Like the plants continue to talk to you. No joke. I know it sounds crazy.
This doesn't sound crazy.
They continue to talk to you when you leave. They're still in your system. So they're chatting with you. And me and Francis saw each other go through this after ayahuasca ceremony. I was like, oh my God, that's ayahuasca talking right now. We would say that. I'd be like, that's Aya. We would want to do little, like, you know, joke reels about this because Aya was talking to us. So I don't know what you want to add, Francis.
No, I love what you just said, and I love that question because it is a valid thought. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know, because you want to know how am I going to be? Because when I come back, I'm different, and everything else is still the same. You know, so it's definitely something to look closely at, and I love that you're not the same and everything else is the same, but you're different, right? I love that because that means that you're going through an expansion. That means you're elevating yourself in a way that no one else is. You know, everyone is to me, you know, no shame, but they're taking the easy way out, you know, right? Like keeping things the same, keeping things not, taking the easy way out. And so when you come back, you're just like, you got like a cape on almost. It's just like,
And the rainbow.
oh,
and the rainbow.
Yeah. And so you have so much, because that question comes from a lack of trust of self. And that's pre-plants. Post-plants, there's so much trust within self. It still blows my mind. So you, like Lily says, you will know where to act from, how to act from, and you're going to be so well equipped to deal with the decisions that you make post retreat, post plants. You will. And on top of that, you have a whole new community of people who went through the same
shit you did, same weird ass shit that you did. Yep.
So you're going to be like, wait, what's going on? You're going to make connections and friendships with people who are on the same journey as you. So you're not going to be alone. You can have those conversations for as long as you need to.
Yeah. You guys made a connection back to something that happened, like 6 years ago, where someone shared with me, like, oh, like a random person. I was looking to go to group therapy after my nephew passed. And the guy, he shares like, oh, you're like going into a different period where you'll start to, you know, attract a new tribe, a new community. And at the time, I didn't understand that, because it's like, oh, I don't want to lose my friends that I currently have right now. But then I realized, like, as I dibble and dabble into these new concepts and themes, is like, you know, my current friend group, like who I love and cherish, like they're not there yet, right? And they don't understand that, or they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? So it's only natural that, like, as you begin to explore that, you also need a community there that supports that, and you can talk through things, and like,
And just to be vulnerable with you as well, it's like when I was going through some of these stages, I actually lost the whole friend group, but then I reframed it. I was like, you didn't lose anything, you gained, right? Like, we're always worried about what we're losing, and I was like, no, I gained a whole new perspective, and those connections just naturally couldn't hold with the new frequency. It just is like, oh yeah, you can't cling to something that's on it. You know, I just tuned into a different radio station. That's all I did. And I still left with love, right? And I may come back around. We may come back around and join. But I knew that in order to step into that new frequency, and then the people that came into my life, i.e. Kai, all kinds of people were coming into my life that I would have never been available to had I not been brave enough to step into that new frequency. And I remember saying to myself, oh my God, this is the tribe that I had always been looking for.
Wow.
But yeah, but it was still, there was a lonely period, but I, as an extrovert, I had to practice the loneliness. Francis knows this. I really had to become friends with my own loneliness, because that is one of the scariest things for an extrovert, to lose tribe. And I had to become my own best friend first. And so the best friends I called in after that was just like, it was wild. Like, the fact that Francis and I are together doing this right now is wild. Like, I met her almost 10 years ago, something like that. You just would never know how our paths would come back together, and it's through this, and it's wild. It's wild. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the universe will always take care of you. You'll always be taken care of. Yeah,
I do believe
always.
that. Even in the moment when you're going through stuff and you're like, oh, I do believe,
It comes full circle. Then you look back and you're like, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, Lily, why'd you cause yourself all that kind of drama? Why?
Oh, this is beautiful, guys. Thank you for inviting me on this conversation.
Yeah, I love these soul sessions. Yeah. I just love, what I love is how real you are, and you're such a good listener, because you catch on to something that we said that connects to something else, and I love it. It's like beautiful. I feel like this is like a Oprah Soul session, but better,
I,
more real.
I feel like being in this session too, like I'm actually so shocked because I always feel like when other people are talking, I feel like I'm always interrupting them. So the fact that I was like, I don't know, I felt content with sitting back, listening, and then contributing when I needed to do so. I felt, oh wow, I felt very present.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, I admire you, Aisha, for being intentional with this
Ooh.
journey and this process, and being intentional for on your own healing path, right? And being brave to even have this conversation. Some people won't even have these conversations with us. Because, you know, having these conversations means, you know, facing some stuff and talking about some
Yeah.
stuff that's, you know, so we get it. We get it. So I commend you
Thank
for
you.
whatever journey, whatever you decide to do. I really do. I commend you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I really appreciate you. I love watching your stories. I love your rainbow.
I love that you like comment on my stories, and I think the first time you commented on one of my stories, I didn't feel alone anymore in my rants because someone got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get your rants. Believe me, I
Yeah.
get you. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I know where she's going with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I know where she's going. So, well, thank you so much, and I'm gonna be seeing you soon. Anyway,
Yes.
gonna be seeing you soon.
And Francis, I'm gonna follow you.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
follow you too. It's so lovely to meet you, Aisha.
Yeah, it's so lovely
Yeah.
meeting you as
Yay!
well.
Yay! Have a good night,
Oh,
everyone.
good night.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.